In today's video, we're going to take a deep dive into the 2024 electoral map based on the most updated forecast available. We'll go state by state, breaking down where things stand in this hotly contested race between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. These forecasts are shifting all the time as new data comes in, so we're going to piece together the latest insights and projections on which candidate is likely to come out on top in each key battleground. There's a lot to cover, so let's jump right into it. We'll start off with Virginia, a state that's been a Democratic stronghold in recent elections, but is showing signs of a more competitive race this time around. In the 2020 election, Joe Biden won Virginia by a wide margin, taking the state by about 10 points. This solidified Virginia's status as a reliably blue state, especially in federal elections. However, in 2024, Kamala Harris is unlikely to replicate Biden's success. Based on current polling and projections, Harris's margin is probably going to be about half of Biden's 2020 victory, meaning her lead could be around 5 percentage points. That's a significant tightening of the race. And it highlights how Virginia, like many other states, is shifting to the right. One reason for this rightward shift is that Republicans have been making gains in statewide races in Virginia. For instance, Republicans won back the governorship in 2021, which was a major victory for the GOP and showed that the state is not as solidly blue as it once appeared. That momentum could carry over into the 2024 presidential election. Still, while the race will be closer, Harris is expected to pull off a victory in Virginia, even if it's by a more disappointing margin for Democrats. In terms of the electoral map, Virginia is still classified as likely blue, but the shrinking margins should be concerning for the Harris campaign as it indicates that Democratic dominance in the state is weakening. Next, let's look at two more traditionally Democratic states, Colorado and New Mexico. These states also went strongly for Joe Biden in 2020, but much like Virginia, they're expected to be more competitive in 2024 with Harris at the top of the ticket. Biden won Colorado by a whopping 14 points and New Mexico by 11 points in the last election, but Harris is not expected to perform nearly as well. Current projections suggest that both states will be decided by much smaller margins, probably less than 7 points. This indicates a clear decline in Democratic support since 2020. And it reflects a broader trend where Harris is struggling to generate the same level of enthusiasm or coalition building that Biden was able to achieve. But before we get into the details, hit the subscribe button, like this video, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for your support. Despite this drop in support, Harris is still favored to win both Colorado and New Mexico. These states will remain in the likely blue category, but the reduced margins show that Democrats are losing some ground in key regions. If these trends continue, it could spell trouble for the party, not just in this election, but in future cycles as well. These traditionally blue states are becoming more competitive, and that makes them worth keeping an eye on as we approach Election Day. Now let's talk about Minnesota, which is an absolutely crucial state for Kamala Harris. Minnesota hasn't gone red in a presidential election since 1972, making it a long-standing Democratic stronghold. However, Trump came surprisingly close to flipping Minnesota in 2016 when Hillary Clinton won the state by just 1.5. This was a wake-up call for Democrats who realized that Minnesota could no longer be taken for granted. Biden managed to win the state by a more comfortable margin in 2020, defeating Trump by 7 points, but the race was still closer than many expected. For the 2024 election, Harris has chosen Minnesota's sitting governor, Tim Walz, as her running mate, which is a strategic move designed to shore up her support in the state. If Harris hadn't chosen Walz, she might have been in real trouble here. Minnesota is one of those states where having a strong local candidate on the ticket can make a significant difference, and Walz's presence will likely help Harris maintain her lead. That said, it's unlikely that Harris will outperform Biden in Minnesota. If she can't match or exceed Biden's 7-point victory in 2020, it could be seen as a warning sign for the Democrats nationwide. The fact that Walz is on the ticket should help Harris win Minnesota. But if her margin of victory is smaller than Biden's, it could be indicative of broader challenges the campaign is facing. With Virginia, Colorado, New Mexico, and Minnesota all classified as likely blue, Harris is sitting at 226 electoral votes. That's a solid foundation, but it's not enough to win the presidency, and she's going to need to secure more battleground states if she hopes to reach 270. Let's now turn to Donald Trump. and look at some of the likely states in his column. We'll begin with the 2nd Congressional District of Maine. Maine splits its electoral votes by district, and the 2nd District has been a stronghold for Trump in the past. He won this district in both 2016 and 2020, and he's expected to win it again in 2024. It's only one electoral vote, but in a close race, every vote matters. The 2nd District of Maine is classified as likely red, and Trump can count on that vote in his total. Next, we move to 2 states that are reliably Republican, but not quite as solid as others: Alaska and South Carolina. Alaska has been a red state for decades, and while there has been some talk about it becoming more competitive in recent years, Trump is still expected to win it comfortably in 2024. South Carolina is in a similar position as a Republican-leading state, but not quite as solid as some of the deeper red states like Indiana or Missouri. Trump is favored to win both Alaska and South Carolina, and these states are classified as likely red, adding 12 electoral votes, Trump's tally. These aren't must-win states for Trump, but they are important pieces of the puzzle in his path to 270. Now we get to the Midwest, which has been a critical battleground in recent elections. In 2016, Trump shocked the political world by flipping Iowa and Ohio, 2 states that had voted for Barack Obama in 2008 and 2012. Trump won both states by nearly double digits in 2016, and then he repeated that performance in 2020. Despite some predictions that Biden might make inroads in Iowa and Ohio, Trump held on to both states easily in the last election. In 2024, Trump is expected to win Iowa and Ohio again. These 2 states have shifted firmly into the Republican column, and there's little chance that the Democrats can win them back anytime soon. While Iowa and Ohio used to be considered swing states, they're now more accurately described as likely red. Together, they add another 18 electoral votes to Trump's total. Moving down to Sunbelt. We have 2 massive battlegrounds, Texas and Florida. These are 2 of the biggest prizes on the electoral map, with a combined 70 electoral votes between them. In 2020, Trump won Texas by 6 points and Florida by 3. However, compared to 2016, Trump's margin in Texas shrank while his margin in Florida increased. In fact, Trump's victory in Florida in 2020 was the largest margin of victory for a presidential candidate in the state since 2004. As we look ahead to 2024, Trump is expected to build on that success. Some forecasts suggest that Trump could win Florida by at least 7 points, which would be the largest margin for a Republican candidate in the state in decades. Texas is expected to be more competitive than Florida, but Trump is still favored to win there as well. Some projections even suggest that Trump could win Texas by a double-digit margin, though others have it closer. Either way, Texas and Florida are both likely to stay in Trump's column, giving him 70 crucial electoral votes and pushing his total to 219. At this point in the race, Trump is just 7 electoral votes behind Harris, according to the most liberal forecast. But this is where the race gets really interesting as we now turn to the remaining 7 battleground states, the ones that will truly decide the election. 2 of these states, Arizona and Georgia, are leaning in Trump's favor, while the remaining 5 are considered toss-ups or tilt states, meaning they could go either way. Let's start with Arizona, a state that narrowly flipped blue in 2020 when Biden won it by just 0.31. Arizona has been a traditionally red state, but changing demographics and increased turnout in urban areas helped Democrats win there in the last election. However, in 2024, Trump is the clear favorite to take Arizona back. He currently has a 63% chance of winning the state, according to forecasts, and some betting markets have Trump's odds as high as 70. Polling averages show Trump with a slight but consistent lead, and as the election draws closer, his advantage is only expected to grow. Arizona is classified as lean red, and Trump is on track to win it. Georgia is another state that flipped blue in 2020, but it's looking like it will return to the Republican column in 2024. Trump won Georgia by 5 points in 2016, but Biden narrowly defeated him in 2020. This was a historic win for Democrats, as Georgia hadn't voted blue in a presidential election since 1992. However, Harris is unlikely to replicate Biden's success in Georgia. Trump currently has a 63% chance of winning the state, and he's been leading in the polls for most of the election cycle. Georgia is classified as lean red, meaning Trump is favored to win it, but the race will still be competitive. Finally, we come to the remaining 5 tilt states: Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan. These are the states where the outcome is most uncertain, and they will likely determine who wins the election. Let's start with Nevada, a state that Democrats have held since 2004. However, Harris's odds of winning Nevada in 2024 are slim. While Biden carried the state in 2020, Trump is polling well enough that Nevada could potentially flip. Nevada is classified as tilt blue for now, but it's far from a sure thing for Harris. North Carolina is another critical state for Trump. He won it in 2016 and 2020, and he's favored to win there again in 2024. Trump's lead in the polls has been consistent, and despite some challenges facing the Republican Party in North Carolina, he's expected to hold on to the state. North Carolina is classified as tilt red, but it's a must-win for Trump if he wants to reach 270. Wrath and that brings us to the three most important states in the Western. Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan. These states were pivotal in 2016 and 2020, and they will likely decide the 2024 election as well. Trump is currently leading in Pennsylvania, a state he won in 2016 but lost to Biden in 2020. If Trump wins Pennsylvania, it would likely put him over the 270 electoral votes needed to win the presidency. Wisconsin and Michigan are also toss-ups, with both candidates polling closely. Based on the latest forecast, Trump is on track to win with 281 electoral votes, while Harris is projected to finish with 257. This gives Trump a narrow but decisive victory. Of course, the race is far from over, and things could change in the final weeks of the campaign, but as of now, Trump is in a strong position to reclaim the White House. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this analysis, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more updates on the 2024 election.